my heart with spiritual knowledge and remove the darkness in my life. So thank you all for joining us. If you want, you can just keep your eyes closed, just a small prayer of gratitude for my teachers. And you can do the same. Radha Priti, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Yontah Pravesha Mama Vachamimam Prashuttam Sanjeevayatyakila Shaktidhara Swadhamna Anyamscha Hastacharana Shravanat Vagadim Pranannamo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam. Thank you all. For those of you who are not familiar to Sanskrit, those are just Sanskrit ways to offer gratitude to my teachers in my life. It is explained in the yoga tradition that simply by the practice of gratitude, the doors to our heart will open up where you'll be able to see things with the utmost clarity. So that is how we are supposed to start our days. Oh, we have Luke. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Heartspace, Luke.
Good morning.
And Eileen, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Heartspace. Henga, thank you for joining us on the Heartspace call. And Geet, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Vedaji. Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So today's topic is the heart of a sage. You know, we all have different proclivities in our lives, and the sages, they also have a unique construction, energetic construction of their hearts. And when we get a peek into what is really in the heart of the sages, it gives us more hope and also helps to change possibly our outlook at the world and try to see things and the world from the lenses of the sages, because everyone wears different colored lenses based on our experiences in the world that we have uh, gone through, and also all the information and data that we gather through our knowledge acquiring faculties, which is our sense of sight, smell, touch, hear, and taste. In Sanskrit, they're called Sabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gandha. Those are the 5 words in Sanskrit. So, why this topic today? You know, every week we are meditating on a particular topic related to the heart that we would like to explore deeper. So, this week's meditation has been, especially starting 2024, how did I get here? Was my meditation. How did I get here to where I am in life? You may also ask yourself this question. Wherever you are in life, you can ask, how did you get here? And you'll see there's layers and layers of different contributing factors in our lives. Many who have shaped our psychology, many who have shaped our physiology, many who have shaped our neurochemistry, and many who have shaped the the journey of our hearts. So for me, when I was doing this meditation, I was realizing how uh, the teachers who have come into my life and they help to open the doors where I could see the world through the lenses of my heart. And one of the common realization I had, and it, is a thread that followed all the way through, is that sages have a very unique lens, and that lens that they wear is the lens of equality. How they see everyone in this world as one, this divine spark that is igniting the full function of the body and the mind. So that spark in the heart is what they see. So their ability to filter through our physiology, our psychology, and really see the true essence of who we are. And that is the lens that in the Bhagavad Gita we study, Pandita Samadarshana, that they see the world with an equal vision. There is no hierarchy in their lenses. There's no discrimination. They're not looking at colors and shapes and sizes and mass and different intellectual abilities. All they're seeing is that pure, beautiful spark in the heart, which is us, the beautiful soul who is undying, eternal, ever existing, filled with love and joy. And their heart, we are innately born with compassion. So this is the second topic within this topic that I want to dive a little deep into. So they're seeing the world with equal vision. And when you see the world with an equal vision, you are then able to have the true practice and the true access to the emotions of pure compassion. Most of you know that in this world, we know about apathy, where so much goes on and we see it, we hear about it every day, and yet our heart becomes so hardened that we are not able to feel much because it is a nonstop exposure that we are encountering every day of our life when we turn on the TV, when we turn on to the news. It is just a lot of suffering and pain. And when we are continuously exposed to that, then our heart becomes, sometimes has a tendency to become a little jaded, a little hard. And uh, and so what happens, because our heart becomes hardened, we're not able to experience uh, ourselves because we are using a shield to protect ourselves. And when you're protecting yourself, you're also isolating yourself. So therefore, apathy, and then you hear very uh, commonly have sympathy and an empathy. So apathy, sympathy, and empathy, these are emotions that we experience from a distance. We see suffering, we feel for them. We may send them a little donations here and there. And so these are all external and they are all from a distance. We suffer, we see the suffering of others and we go through them from a distance. And Bhagavad Gita and also the Srimad Bhagavatam, beautiful texts, they explain this compassion in such depth. They explain this beautiful Sanskrit verse where it says, Titikshava Karunika, that a sage who sees with the equal vision all species of life in this world, they also have access to this deepest uh, emotions and the feelings of compassion. Compassion means love. And love means when you are no longer able to see the suffering of others. If you are truly in love with everyone and everything in this world, you will have difficulty being in this world because there's also a lot of suffering that is being experienced in this world. So a sage with equal vision, because they have this spiritual compassion, this spiritual love in their heart, they're not able to bear the suffering of others. So basically, the sages that we think are very calm and peaceful, but internally there is restlessness in their heart. Not out of pain, not out of anguish, not out of anxiety, not out of any kind of external influences on them, but rather simply because they have such deep connection with themselves and their spiritual selves that when they see other spiritual beings trying to remove or be trapped in these layers and layers of the material energies cobwebs, and they use this term cobweb because those of you who know what a cobweb is, when an insect falls into the cobweb, then the more it moves, more it tries to get away, the more entangled it gets. So the sages explain that in the material world, when we are uh, attempting more and more ways to try and live from our material existence and not from our true authentic spiritual self, what happens is we become more and more entangled. And I remember when I was young living in the monastery, there used to be a lot of cobwebs, And I remember one time a big cobweb, the spiders they set up at night, and a dragonfly came and somehow got stuck with their feathers on the cobweb. And the dragonfly kept moving around and moving around. And the more it moved, the more immobile it became. And eventually it was completely uh, uh, unable to move. So much so, then only finally the spider comes and goes after it. So this is what the sages are able to see when the living beings who are pure, unconditional love is the very nature of who we are. When we try to seek something on the material plane, then we become more and more trapped. And the more we try to uh, utilize our senses and our material existence to enjoy the material world, the material nature, then the more and more we become entangled and we become lost. So the sages, when they see this, they become extremely, extremely heartbroken because they see the beginning and the end, what the true nature of the soul is, and how it's trying to enjoy something that is untrue and not sustainable and is flickering happiness. So therefore, the sages, the very emotion in their heart is the heart of compassion. Everyone who's enlightened in this world, they have this burning emotion of spiritual compassion. How can I help and serve others? This is the continuous question that burns the living uh, sages, even though they're so completely peaceful and content, Atmarama, self-satisfied. They're self-satisfied, but yet they're burning with this deep compassion. And so therefore, what do? The sages are continuously meditating and praying for others, number one. And number two, you will also notice the sages are not just sitting and meditating and praying for others, but they're actually involved in helping others to remove the chains, the shackles that are binding us to this material world. So, many of you had come to India with me. We went to a special ashram. It was the ashram of one sage named Nim Karoli Baba. He's a sage that lived in the mountains, a great devotee of Lord Ram. And his very existence was all about just love and serve everyone. So much so, to the very last of his breath, he was engaged in sharing this love and teaching everyone how important it is to love and serve everyone. Why is it love and serve everyone? Because service is the true expression of unconditional love. And every sage you meet in this world, the message is the same. It is the different variations of their expression of this deep spiritual compassion in their heart. And this compassion means how to remove the harm that we're causing ourselves and the suffering that we are inflicting ourselves. And so their continuous effort in this world is how to lift everyone's consciousness and how to engage everyone in the service, in the selfless service and in the self-forgetful service. And this is what compassion means in its true essential form. Their very existence is a life of compassion. I'll give you a few stories that are there in the wisdom texts. I may have told you this story before. This is a sage. He's a sage named Dadichi. He was living in the mountains and meditating. And his wife, they were just living their life in deep meditation. And the demigods in the heavenly planets, as we know, there's many, many heavenly planets, and there are many, many hellish planets. And there's this planet, which is called the planet Earth, or Martya Loka. And so in this planet, in the higher regions, the heavenly beings, their position is constantly under threat from someone else trying to take their positions. Just like in the material world, when someone tries to take our position, we try to see what we can do to defend our territory and our possessions and our position in society. So the demigods have those same emotions in the higher heavenly planets. So one day, this great demoniac ruler, his name is Vritrasura, he was a powerful, powerful demoniac king that had so much power by the sheer power of his austerities and sacrifices and penances that he was able to go to the heavenly planets and throw the king of the heavens, Indra, out of his kingdom by the sheer presence. He was that powerful. So King Indra and the demigods, they were running for shelter. This is another important thing that we'll talk about also. Compassion comes from shelter, so remind me if I forget. So these demigods, they're running for shelter and they're running for help. They ended up going to Brahma, who's the creator, and then they all ended up going to Vishnu, who's the maintainer. And when they went to Vishnu, they said, please, my dear Lord, help us. We have been thrown out of our kingdoms, and this is our right, and we need to get back our kingdoms. So Vishnu said, yes, I'm happy with your prayers. The solution I have for you is that there is a sage named Dadichi who's meditating in the Himalayan mountains. His meditation has been so intense and so powerful that only the bones in his body, they have been so charged that if you take the bones of his body and make it into a weapon, only that weapon has the power to destroy this demoniac king, Vritrasura. And he became a demoniac king because he himself in his previous life was also a saintly person. And he also did a lot of years of penances and austerities. But sometimes, when you make a little mistake, sometimes there's a little oops that happens in our lives. So he had a oops moment. So he got to be the big, powerful demoniac king. But still, he maintained all his mystical powers. And the demigods in the heavenly regions, they didn't have the power to conquer him. And the only way they could do it is to use the power of another Brahmana, another saint, sage, who has cultivated these deep powers. So when the heavenly demigods, they reached his ashram, and he opened his eyes and he says, how may I serve you? You'll notice this is the mood of a sage. How can I serve? And when they ask, how can I serve you? Whatever you ask of them, they fulfill that desire. There is no negotiation. It is simply a dedication of deep mood of service. So when they said, we need your bones to kill this demoniac king, he smiled at them with so much love and affection for them. And he was so jubilant that his very physical body could be engaged in the service of others. And he says, please give me 5 minutes. And he sat down in deep meditation and he left his body. And then they took and they made the weapons. And then they conquered Vritrasura and took over back their kingdoms. So in the Puranas, when we study this story that happened thousands of years ago, the essence of the story is the heart of a sage is so much compassion. When the sage sees the suffering of others, when they hear the prayers of others, their heart immediately melts and they're ready to serve in whatever possible capacity. Even if it means giving up your physical existence on this planet. While they live to serve others. And even when they leave this body, you will see they're serving others. I know many of you were there when, this person that many of you know, Kamala Devi, when she departed this world, she was still bringing so many people together and sharing the spiritual love that she had in her heart. So while they live, they serve. As they're dying, they serve out of compassion. And whatever is left of it, that is also engaged in the service. So this is one example of a sage who, with deep compassion, deepest level of compassion, whatever it takes to serve you. Why is that? Because they know that in in each and every individual soul, there lies the divine spirit soul. We are never alone. Our dearmost friend is always situated in the inner chambers of your heart, just situated right next to you. But the problem, what happens when we sit next to each other, we are always looking ahead and forward and not looking side towards our dearmost friend. But a sage is able to see both the individual soul and the supreme soul. So therefore, the sage, all it tries to do is tries to help the individual soul to turn their head and look at the deep relationship they have with the divine. And when that deep relationship is there, then there is an ignition of deep spiritual compassion. The deepest spiritual compassion can, can genuinely be felt and experienced by someone who is deeply connected with the divine in their heart. You'll experience compassion, but the deepest, the most purest, the most sublime compassion is in the heart of the sages. So we're all trying to be uh, the souls who are trying to have access to ourselves, and through that we can have access to the divine self within ourselves. So this uh, compassion has many, many layers. You'll study in the Bhagavad Gita. There's compassion in the mode of goodness, there's compassion in the mode of passion, and there is compassion in the mode of ignorance. Because we have compassion for different things. So I talked about the deepest compassion, which is for the soul. So you'll notice that spiritual saints, even though they're sitting in one place meditating, their very nature of compassion, spiritual compassion, is expansion and creation. Spiritual compassion is expansion and creation. How does that work? Because mode of goodness, compassion means you make things happen. That is the nature of mode of goodness. It's an action. When compassion is not just an emotion from a distance, remember we discussed this. And compassion is an action that is in the mode of goodness that makes spiritual expansion, and it is something that is also very contagious, spiritually contagious. When you practice compassion, you naturally touch a heart of another, and they then are able to touch the hearts of others. So compassion has this effect, this ripple effect, just as if you're standing next to a clear lake and you throw a stone in the middle of the lake, there will be so many ripples. So this is what compassion is. Spiritual compassion. It's expansion, and it's an action word. And then you will see compassion in the mode of passion is generally you will sit and you like to watch things happen in this world. You see people are doing things and you just simply watch and wondering how it happened. So this is, you'll notice, scientific world is very much into studying how things have happened in this world. And so that's how we know that this material world is primarily running in the mode of passion. We're trying to always catch up to see how things happened, and we spend a lot of time studying it so that we can also engage it to our advantage to further our material pursuits. So this is compassion that is in the mode of passion. And then there is compassion in the mode of ignorance. They are, people who are not just watching things happen, but they're just content in themselves and not doing much to make things happen in and around them and in this world. So the sage's compassion is a little bit not just mode of goodness, but it's pure goodness. And that's why you will see their compassion is not just individual or social or universal, but it's multi-universal, their feelings of compassion. I have mentioned this story of another sage named Advaita Acharya. He was an old sage about 538 years ago. He lived in India, Advaita Acharya. He was in such deep spiritual enlightened state, always happy and self-satisfied within himself. But he could not rest because all around him was so much suffering. So he was restless, and he would go to the Ganga and he would hold his Shalagram Shila, his deity of his heart, in his hand, and he would bathe it in the Ganga waters and offer them with tulasi leaves and flowers, and he would scream and cry in deep prayers. And it explains that the Shakti, the power that he cultivated in his heart was so powerful that his prayers could enter the layers of all the 14 planetary systems. And whose prayers would be and was heard by the personified divine in the spiritual realm. And so therefore, those compassionate prayers then got answered by the divine saying, okay, I see you're feeling this pain and deep compassion for others. I will personally come to help you with the mission of helping others to find their divine purpose in this life and to be engaged in the topmost spiritual relationships of pure bhakti, for prema bhakti. And so this is what happens when we practice spiritual compassion. You are not alone. You become an absolute transparent via media of the spiritual source. And that is in the mode of pure goodness that this happens, that we cultivate through our daily spiritual practices. Daily spiritual practices, we start to cultivate these emotions where we can learn to start to feel compassion for ourselves. And we then start to realize the layers that are covering ourselves from ourselves. In this world, you'll notice there's a lot of offerings that you must change. Obama ran a campaign on change. There's climate change, this change, and physical change. You want to change your body, you want to change your mind, you want to change your careers. There's so many different offerings in this world for change. You can look up, there's so many. But in the bhakti tradition, in the bhakti practices, we never practice for change. What we are practicing for is to find our true, authentic spiritual self within our hearts. We're not fighting for change. We are fighting to find our true spiritual identity. That is not change, because you, as the beautiful, eternal, unconditional, loving soul, never changes. The only thing that happens is we are continuously being covered with external layers so much so that we forget who we are, and therefore we feel that if we just change our externals, that we will be happy, that we will have what we want, that we will be able to have optimal success in this world. But in the tradition of bhakti, you see the sages, their compassion is not to your external being, is to you, the beautiful, unconditional, loving soul. So therefore, this practice of daily meditation in our lives, where we meditate and we use the sound meditation, because some people think that we see the world with our eyes. But in the Bhakti tradition, we say that we see the world with our heart. And the doors to the heart, the eyes of the heart can be opened when we use our ears. And this beautiful sound meditation enters our heart through our ears and opens the doors. And that is why our sadhana is there. Every morning we sit and we meditate. We walk and we meditate. We lay down and we meditate. Every day is every day, every moment. Our very existence is a continuous meditation. And then when we see the world with our heart, then only can we have an equal vision in this world. Equal vision does not come through these eyes. These eyes, no matter how beautiful they are, no matter how powerful they are, equal vision is only accessible through the lenses of the heart. And that accessibility is available through this beautiful meditation. Every single day when we meditate. And when we start to see with our heart, we will have ultimate spiritual compassion for everyone in this world. Because anything prior to this emotion of compassion, it is something that is happening from the mind and your intelligence. I feel sorry for their suffering. I wish I could do something about it. Oh, poor kitties. Oh, poor dogs. Oh, poor animals. These are all just sympathy from a distance, emotions from a distance. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the suffering conditions that other living entities are going through. But when we look at the world through our heart, we'll be able to then actually make major changes in the world. Because the change will happen from inside of you. And that change is so powerful that everyone around you becomes infected with this beautiful, loving energy of compassion. So this was my meditation for today. And I just wanted to share with you the heart of a sage is pure, undivided spiritual compassion. And that compassion is an action. It is not just an emotion. And that compassion is accessible to us through the lenses of our heart, and especially when we get connected to the divine within our hearts. So thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Heartspace call. Anybody has something to share? Yes, Narayani Devi.
So, what is compassion from shelter? What did you mean by compassion from shelter?
Compassion from shelter. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, earlier you said to remind you that that you wanted to talk more about compassion comes from shelter.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you, Narayani Devi. Yes, everyone in this world, we all are looking for shelter. We all want protection. We all want to feel secure. So shelter is, think of it like an umbrella. When you're sitting in your house, you are sheltered from all the weather conditions. An umbrella shelters you from the rain. But what shelters you? How is your heart being sheltered? Is the question we have to ask. Our heart is being placed under the care of so many people, so many institutions. So that is the real shelter, because heart is the softest part of our being, the most genuine, authentic part of our being. So where does the heart get the shelter? And so therefore the sages, you will notice, they are continuously taking shelter of the divine. Continuously, 24/7. They understand that everything in this world is my Father's property. And with that emotion of knowing that everything in this world is God's property, they have tremendous respect and love and appreciation for everything they have and everything that there is. So at every circumstance, acknowledgement of this creation, how everything belongs to God. There's a divine creator who everything belongs to. So an acknowledgement of that, and when that acknowledgement reaches deep, that becomes realized knowledge. And that from that realized knowledge, then deeper knowledge comes in where the divine reveals knowledge to you. And that's where the shelter is. When there is divine knowledge and that divine connection between the soul and the super soul, there is the shelter. And when we have that shelter, it's the most beautiful feeling in this world. You become fearless in this world. The body is no longer a limit. Your mind is no longer a limit. The unlimited feeling of expansion, creation, all that is accessible to us. And everything you wish for in this world becomes manifest in our lives because we have taken shelter of the divine. We're not an individual being disconnected. We are connected so deeply. Just like, a mother. Mother's emotion towards their child is the purest form of compassion. Compassion, mother feels. Mother knows what the child is feeling. So much so that the mother is ready to take all the pain and suffering that the child is going through. And mother always generally tends to go through that exact same pain while the child is going through. For those of you who are mothers, you know. You feel your child's pain as they're feeling it. And what does the mother do? Is ready to sacrifice everything within her power and beyond her powers to alleviate that pain from their child. So this is another vision that you can see in the world of what is this spiritual compassion, because it's accessible. And of course, getting back to your question, is that there is a level of surrender. The mother forgets such deep surrender, deep love. The mother forgets everything. And that deep love that the mother has, it's surrender. It's deep compassion. And surrender means to take shelter. And whenever we take shelter, you will notice that you will always be protected. Your heart will be protected. So therefore, in our tradition of bhakti, I know I have so much faith in my teachers who have sheltered my heart from it being betrayed, for it being uh, hurt. It just continues to grow because such deep is the love that I have for my teachers, because they have very carefully nurtured my heart. So this is what happens, that we need to find a shelter for our hearts. And the way to start it is simply by studying our daily morning sadhana, every single day meditating, finding ourselves, then we can find shelter. Sometimes when you find shelter, you can find yourself. Other times you can find yourself and then you can find shelter. So both ways are okay. Thank you, Narayani Devi. Any other? Okay, Ramananda Prabhu.
Yes, when you're telling the story about the Dichi, I mean, I don't know if you have more information, but it seems so cruel that just they go and just ask his bones. I mean, where was the compassion on him? You know?
Compassion on the side of the demigods, you mean?
I mean, no, for him, when somebody would come and ask my bones today, I would feel this is quite a cruel act, you know. So, I
You'll
mean, how?
feel that they're being cruel to you by asking for your bone, or you'll feel,
Yeah,
I'm not sure I understand.
yeah. I mean, I would think, what is this? I mean, you know, they come and ask you for my bones. I wouldn't understand such a thing. So how is this? And it comes from God, from the divine instruction. So why is it so? Is there more information on that? How is that?
Yeah.
It seems so cruel that he has to give his bones.
Yes, yes, beautiful question. The information is that you will not be asking this question, why are they asking for my bone? Because when you're so surrendered, your existence is not there. You forget yourself. That is what we've been discussing. Self-forgetfulness is when you dissolve your material identity, then you can really, really engage in the purest form of compassion. So if someone's asking for your bone and you feel, why are they asking for my bone? Where's the compassion on myself? That means we just have a little bit of work to do. That's all, you know. It's a very high level of spiritual compassion. So be patient and have some compassion on yourself. Eventually you may have access to this spiritual compassion. You're like, yes, my very existence is for the service of others. What a beautiful question. Okay. Anyone else wants to share anything? Yes, Diane.
First of all, thank you. This has been lovely. So my question is, so recently, I've had a lot of people, my friends and coworkers and things just go through a lot of health issues and surgeries and health scares and things. And, my friends and I have rallied around and we've, donated money and making meals and doing all those external things because we ask, how can I help? And this is like how we're helping. Is does compassion from the Bhakti tradition sometimes you just stop there and you can always pray for them, right? And connect to the divine for them, but is there always a way to go beyond those tangible things for them to do something even greater for them? And does that end when the trial ends?
I am a little not confused. I just want to make sure I understand you a little better. I have a feeling that I understand your question, but I would be so happy if you could elaborate just a little bit more.
Okay, so when someone you love and care for is going through something difficult, and you do all the things that we typically do, like give money and make food and set up rides and appointments and things like that, that's a particular level of compassion. is there something that we as people who follow bhakti like go to that next level for them, or does compassion in some relationships just stop at that level?
Beautiful question. Yes, you'll see that there's a lot of compassion in this world. You know, when someone is sick, people are happy to pull out their pockets and put money and go make them some soup and, you know, different things, tangible, practical things. Those are needed. But in Bhakti tradition, we do that. But in addition to that, we try to see what we can do to make that person, elevate that person's consciousness as and when they're going through those difficulties. Because to the degree that they're attached to their material conditioning, to that degree, the suffering is there. And when we are able to help them person change their consciousness and lift their consciousness, the suffering ends. So transfer and upgrading the consciousness is a very, very beautiful practice in bhakti that we do. You'll notice, like when we were helping Kamala Devi live her body, it was a very beautiful thing. Anyone that sees such beautiful spiritual bhakti compassion, you'll be in tears of love. Because you can see there's no suffering. There's so consciousness has changed and they're transformed. Their consciousness has shifted. There's no struggle in their lives. It's all gone. So in bhakti, we are not just there to provide them substantial, practical needs, tangible needs, but we are really concerned about them, not just their sickness, not just giving them money, not just making them soup and making the body more healthy, but what is that person's consciousness? So we have a tendency to chant mantras, do kirtans, and lift the consciousness of everybody in there. And we do a lot of spiritual things with that person and let that person feel that we actually genuinely love that person's heart, as well as just providing tangible needs. So this is what we do in Bhakti traditions, that it transcends the mode of goodness, compassion in the mode of goodness, compassion in the mode of passion, but it's something beyond. So yeah, I don't know if that helped at all.
Yes, it did. So the reminder that like on top of the tangible things that we can do, we can continue to chant and like pray for their souls.
Absolutely. And it doesn't end because we're always loving them, whether they're here with us or not. So we're always praying for them and loving them, sending them love.
Thank you. That was lovely.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, Bhavamai, last question. And then, he has to be quick because our time is up.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. It's actually not a question. I just wanted to make a comment. Thank
Sure.
you so much for a wonderful class. And just on behalf of everybody, we really appreciate all your compassion and teaching us how to be compassionate and loving to ourselves and others. Also, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your recap of the story with Vitrasura. I absolutely love that story in the Srimad Bhagavatam, with that pastime, and it literally had me on the edge of the seat when I was reading it. So, just want to encourage everyone, if you have time and you're able, please check out that story in the 6th canto. It is absolutely amazing. Hare Krishna.
Okay, beautiful souls. Thank you all so much. For those of you who joined later, I'm sorry I didn't get to personally welcome you, but we're always happy to see you. And please stay connected to your heart and always try to seek the divine connection between you, your consciousness and the Supreme Consciousness. Namaste, everyone. For those of you who are in Europe, please have a good night or good evening. Oh, any housekeeping, Keshavi?
We're about to launch our retreat in Connecticut. We can host a lot of people, so please join us from anywhere in the world. It's at a beautiful coastal location, so the link will be coming out in the next few days.
Thank you, Keshavi. Nita, any housekeeping? These are the leaders. Okay.
Oh,
Nita, any housekeeping announcements?
oh yeah, do check us on YouTube, Vedaji. That's where all the recording is. And follow the Instagram channel as well. It has a lot of nice snippets from his classes and daily reminders. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Namaste, everyone. Please have a beautiful night. And enjoy your beautiful days and nights and life in general. Namaste.
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 Stay.